everybody, and welcome back to the We Know Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya and Scally, here to talk about Season 3, Episode 7 of the Traitors Canada, and to talk about every faithful and traitor still left in the game. With me, as always, is my number one faithful, the most faithful of the faithful. It's Brian David Scally.
Hello, Pooya. I am here. May not be the best faithful, but am a faithful indeed. Excited to talk about everything the Traitors Canada. So we have yet another good week.
Yeah, listen, 7 episodes in, I do not know what my verdict is on this group of faithfuls. I think that certainly they would say we beat season 2. And I would say some of your decisions lately are making me not believe that you're beating season 2, even though mathematically or statistically you have. Because how we landed here, where the most faithful person last week is our latest casualty of the roundtable, I don't understand.
Yeah, like this is why like not everything can be evaluated on paper. It's like they've got 2 traitors and like kind of early, but like I mean, show me a traitor vote out that I'm impressed with. If I'm being totally honest, we had 2. Look, there was the erratic traitor, the emotional traitor. You could say both erratic traitors. These are people who were, playing for all different types of reasons, a little bit messy, and so okay, yeah, season 2 also didn't get an obvious messy traitor for quite some time. Waiting for them to get one of the big targets here.
Yeah, I gotta. Is this meta that we have not talked about or explored before, Scally? That in a turret or in a conclave, there would be a chaotic traitor, an emotional traitor, and a mastermind gluing them together? Because this came up today on this episode.
Interesting. Do you think that really holds true on most conclaves?
So last season, let's look at Canada. All right, let's go back. Let's rewind the tape to last season. We had Netta, Kira, and Michael John.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to call Michael John the chaotic one, I would give it to you.
Down.
Mm-hmm. I guess, Kira, I wouldn't say emotional, but Kira had like maybe a bit of a temper. But even temper feels harsh as a descriptor for her.
See, I remember Kira crying at quite a few banishments, a few roundtables, and she like used that to her advantage. But I would not say it was because she was so stressed over being a traitor and couldn't believe and was just like unpredictable. It was more manipulatively emotional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't think this is a thing that fits. And I mean, it's funny to me that in an attempt to the meta game, it would be we're going off of like personality traits or character traits more than there might be someone from Survivor still in the conclave.
I feel like less than there's always someone who's erratic, someone who's emotional. You could say those two usually would overlap quite a bit in terms of how they're looked at in the game, at least. But I think that it's like they couldn't have been this successful without having someone holding it together up there. And so there's got to be someone. They're not picking 3 goofballs to be up in the Traitors turret at all times. It's got to be someone they actually have faith in. We don't feel like we've hit that yet. And so who should we be looking at? I could see that being a fair enough argument of like, who did the producers put their faith in to actually take it the distance?
I think that's the best way to put it. I would then say, I don't think any of them familiar with Kevin would have assumed anything but Kevin is a mastermind, as opposed to the chaotic roundtable he gets, right? So, but then also, it seems like, ironically enough, the only person that is bringing up recruitment having happened is Jamal. It seems like everyone else is acting like there's only one traitor in the conclave, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Do they think that they fired at someone with a shield? Like, is that over? Or are we just thinking there were 2 to start? And so that's it. I don't know if maybe they're operating under the assumption that like there could be two left, but we have no way of knowing who that recruited traitor is. So keep going for the original traitor
For
with
the mastermind.
one
Yeah,
of the
that
other.
might be the
Uh,
case.
but it does feel as if everyone is really focused on the original trio. We have to figure out that makeup because that is the most concrete information we could try to figure out.
Yeah, well, let's have the graphic open here next to us just so that we have the reference sheet here with two casualties. Scally, last week we talked about the prospect that the traders were going to take a shot at the quadrant that had shields in it. And we thought that's a slam dunk. If they get rid of Sarah Nicole, that will cause so much chaos and so much confusion. And it could make people look at the group within. Given that Jericho leaves this episode, despite them not doing that, do you think they're going to look back on this moment and say, this is where we went wrong in getting rid of Shaughnessy instead?
I don't think so. I really don't think so as it stands. I thought it could have been where we were really getting sold like we could murder Shaughnessy to get a murder, but there's not really a lot that we gain from it. And that's what I was worried about, in that it wasn't going to cause confusion. It was potentially going to take away the like Kevin targeted two random, faithfuls. Why did he pick them? Or they're both traitors, or whatever the case may be. Or we vote out Shaughnessy to prove that Kevin's theory was just nothing. I was a little bit worried that it would put more eyes on Koko there, but seeing how it played out, they were able to take out someone who had a low chance of being voted out in terms of my estimation. So that's a big positive, and I think that is usually the biggest positive you can get. But I did not predict the level of chaos that it could have potentially caused. And I don't think it was directly caused by Shaughnessy, but more so confusion that was already existing in the game.
Yeah, I think that Shaughnessy, I agree with you, was probably safe until Koko eventually gets banished. Because the minute Koko goes, if Shaughnessy's still there, they're like, wow, well, Kevin did decree it. We should go Shaughnessy next. But otherwise, I do think most people had she had fallen off of so many radars. And I think that it was very clear to me that both Shaughnessy and other people understood it as, well, she was being quiet. So that makes sense. And they moved on. Like, it really didn't do a whole lot else. If anything, by the time they get to the reveal of, oh, Shaughnessy died overnight, the heat was already on Jericho, because for some reason at breakfast, Jericho decided to kind of dilly-dally on revealing that he had the shield last night. And by dilly-dally, I mean he didn't open up with the first group of people he was there with breakfast for. He opened up mid-breakfast entries, which made the people that were there earlier also feel a little bit weird about him.
Yeah, it's tough where I think you can choose to not reveal you had a shield, but you can't play so coy. You could just straight out say, I didn't have it. But I don't think that there was a ton of benefit in Jericho doing this, especially when a lot of eyes were on him after the night before. So to piss off someone in Meredith who definitely fancies herself a gamer, is actively playing the game at all turns, is going to be talking to everyone, regardless of how much they're like taking in her information as fact. I think that's super dangerous.
I think there's so many things that I find wrong with the way Jericho went about this. I think number one, you sided with Rhea last night. Rhea went out as a traitor. Other people are potentially going to look at you as an accomplice to Rhea. So you want to be prepared for that. Second, no way could they have fact checked that you had a shield. This was never going to come up unless you volunteered it. At this point, why not keep with the lie you had? Because revealing the truth can do one of two things. Either A, make them feel slighted that you lied, especially for someone like Meredith, who I think was almost offended that, hey, I'm an open place for you to share this. Why didn't you feel comfortable sharing with me? That's rude. Or B, you lied a little too well. And I'm like, wow, this guy can lie. Either way, these are not good things. And I think that the problem is when you are given the moniker of the most faithful of the faithful, you are expected to behave as such. And not being truthful is a problem when you have that title. So, not good for that.
Yeah, I guess it's that Jericho, having been, by our estimation and seemingly theirs, the most faithful of the faithful, any little indiscretion is going to look like an inconsistency. So
Exactly.
where all he does is, withhold this for a minute, which I think is pretty understandable for most people in the game and wouldn't really raise too many eyebrows if a majority of the players, like if Lizette was like, Meredith, I don't want to tell you. I don't think anyone would find that particularly shocking, but I think because it's Jericho, who is seen as like so open and so trustworthy and the most trustworthy in the house on the last challenge, this is different. We think we might have had a recruitment. Why the hell are you acting different all of a sudden?
Yes. And I think that it just doesn't help that, I mean, the Rhea thing really tanks him here because they were already not loving the way he backed Rhea unapologetically. And Rhea did him no favors by being so vocal about who she's backing here. Uh, that was already going to come up. Then you confess this. Maybe it was a way to like, for him, maybe it was a way of like showing an olive branch, being honest to like gain some of that favor back. I think the other part is it spooked him. The whole exchange also spooked him to the point where we then see him say, I'm moving on from Koko. I'm not even going in that direction. I think there is something to be said about when you get hoodwinked bad in this game, you are very quick to doubt every other instinct you have had, unless you're Jamal. Then you just have another accusation ready to go. But Jericho was so ready to just be in the background moving forward. I think he felt too duped.
I think the problem with what Jericho did was he was so willing to move off of Koko, just like, oh my god, I have no idea what I was thinking. Of course, Coco's a faithful. She's so faithful. She's the I don't know what I was doing. It's like, okay, well then why did you do it? You don't think so. You only were doing it to protect Rhea. Rhea was pushing Koko as a traitor, and now you're saying I was completely on board with that. But now that Rhea's gone and I'm getting a little bit of pushback, I'm backing off of it because I'm trying to just not appear guilty, not appear guilty, not appear guilty. Well, this is again inconsistent. You're changing your mind. You're kind of being all over the place. Like if you have a read, stand by it. Not I voted for Koko because I didn't know what to do and I was protecting my fellow traitor. Like, no, I voted for Koko because I still think she's a traitor. And like go to people and build that argument.
Yeah, he goes as far as to even tell Koko to her face that, listen, I am not looking in your direction anymore moving forward. And Scally, he's not the only one. Koko does not cop a single vote this week. And, you know, I don't even think I would credit the Shaughnessy murder as a factor that helped here. I think Koko's social game really speaks for itself. And I think it needs to be studied because this is a cast that very much vocalized the verbiage of traitor versus traitor as early as episode 2, right? As early as the second roundtable, we're talking about traitor on traitor violence. So the fact that y'all voted out a traitor who was pushing a singular name during their banishment, only to not explore that and then get to where we are now. Because then also, who did Rhea vote for on the way out? Remind me. Koko?
Might that have been Koko?
Might that have been Koko? That is now 2 traitors that have voted someone. Maybe look at that name. And I said this in my Discord earlier that, like, I'm not saying that I want Koko out. In fact, Koko staying is making me happy because Koko is one of the couple people that I'm really enjoying this season. And I'm rooting for Koko. But there's just a level of bafflement that I have with this that is very tough for me that I can't let go. And that is, how are you getting away with this?
I am enjoying it so much, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Coco's social game. I think that, where she's saying, like, I just want to cause confusion. I want to just like be silly and goofy today and not be playing too hard because, that's like kind of what a faithful would do. Like, please don't look at me. I'm trying to back off of the radar. So none of that really shocks me. I enjoy Coco. I think that makes sense to me that a lot of people would be really connecting with her in the house. But I also want to give a lot of credit to Venus's plan on recruiting Rhea. I think that in
That
all of
worked.
the confusion that Rhea caused in that manner by just, playing like Rhea and then also getting voted out, going at Koko again, it gave Koko this like perfect shield of like, why again? And people are gonna start to feel bad for Koko of like, even if she is a traitor, like I feel bad for her. Like let's just leave her alone for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that in a weird way, after Koko doesn't go out the first couple of cycles here, Koko kind of has immunity in a weird way. And by that I mean Koko does not need to speak up a lot because everyone kind of understands, yeah, you kind of had a traitor say your name, so it makes sense that you wouldn't want to say anything, or it makes sense that you're hurt, or it makes sense that you're quiet. Like, I think there's so many factors that could make sense off of that. That is a good spot for Koko to be moving forward. I think you're also right that the Venus plan, where I think what helps Koko is that the other traitor left in the game wants to work with you, not against you. Because Venus had enough ammunition to just also push that and get a reset going in the conclave, but wants to play with Koko. And I really admired what we saw from Venus this episode. That Venus isn't just going, is like, I want the Koko suspicion there. I think she does recognize that Koko is my failsafe, right? In the event that something goes wrong or sideways, I still need Koko to be there to push out in the front, if need be, and have Koko leave. And I think that is a great way to look at it. Keep Koko as long as you can, but also be ready to have Koko leave as an easy name. I think the problem is if Koko starts becoming a non-easy name again, then you're in a tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I want every single person to be my failsafe. I want suspicion on you and you and you. I want every single person in this manner to have more suspicion on them than me. But the game can end when I'm with 3 faithfuls and me, and I get all of the money, or the game can end when I'm with 1 faithful or 5 faithful or whatever the case may be. I still get all the money. I don't get all the money if Koko's still here. So it is most important that there is more sus on her, that we can end the game after we get her out, after maybe we get a confirmed traitor out, and then, oh, you know what? We're clean, and I get all this money. Thank you.
If I was a traitor, if I played this game as a traitor, my hope would be I can just win with my fellow traders, because that makes the game so much easier mentally. I don't have to take it all upon myself. I don't have to be the one person. Like, the 1v5 in any of these games is tiring, uh exhausting. That being said, having watched so many seasons of it, Scally, I just don't think I can trust the traitor at the end to not cut me. So I think the paranoia would sink in, and I would be like, I gotta push him out at some point before they push me.
Yes, no, I definitely would go to the end with all of my fellow traders and press share the money. That definitely would be my MO, but I see why people would be very nervous. It is just like, these are people who did ask to have a role in which they are going to be actively at fault for half of the cast going home every night, if not the entire cast, by like much less of a percentage. These people want to play a devious game. What are the chances that that does not apply when you're counting on them to not be devious? Eh.
Yeah, it's always going to be an interesting gymnastics session to figure out whether or not to bail on a fellow trader or go all in with them. I think right now, as things stand, I think Koko is honoring Venus and wanting to work with Venus. And I think Venus is absolutely honoring Koko, but just not wanting to lose the advantage she had on Koko by having Koko get full innocence. So much so that she's ad-libbing a little bit here and there of like, yeah, but that's a lever we have to pull at some point, surely.
Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense. And honestly, it makes sense even from the perspective of, like, we've thought for weeks now that Koko could go at any point. And when Koko maybe goes and does confirm that she's a traitor, you'd want, when people were like, oh yeah, Venus actually was the one that was reminding us that we should stay on this, not actively pushing it out there, not opening the round table, not saying it's Koko or vote me out, but you know, she at least was very open to this idea, actively floating her name. I don't think that Venus would have acted in such a way if that was her fellow traitor.
Right. And I think the other part also is that the good news for Venus is that it's clear to me, because this gets brought up again this episode, where Koko brings up Sarah Nicole making that comment about how we'll take care of you later. We're not concerned right now. Then I'm like, okay, kind of genius to keep Sarah Nicole in here if you are looking to get Koko to leave at some point, because there's every bit of chance that you can then pivot it onto Sarah Nicole, who is playing a flawless faithful game, but a flawless faithful game can also get mistaken for a very good traitor game. So that's not a bad out to have if you're looking for your next shield after a Koko. Someone like that could be in your good graces to keep. Someone who I do not think did not think up until this episode was a good shield to keep was Dom, who she's clearly closely aligned with, but is giving the most faithful energy one can. And then we get to this mission. And so, in order to explain what happened with Dom, I guess we should dive into the mission here, which was interesting in and of itself. So, they were put into groups of 2, and they had 3-minute rounds to go find coins or shields throughout the castle, and then they would have to use those shields and those coins to answer the questions that were asked for that round. And in order to answer them, they would put their coins on the barrel representing the name who they thought the answer would be. And if they were right, they get that money. If they're wrong, money goes away. So the caveat here was that these questions were answered by the traitors. Okay.
Yes.
Simple enough setup. And then some of these questions, and these are questions we've seen happen before in other versions of this. We see this happen with the big chessboard. It's very similar to that, where the questions are something like, which guest doesn't deserve to win this game? Or which guest is most likely a traitor?
Yeah. Which I think is a weird question to ask the traitors to answer who is definitely a traitor. It's like, well, this doesn't really do anything for us. I mean, we have like, it almost like breaks the illusion of they're gonna be honest and get caught in being too honest. It's like, okay, well, they said this because they thought we would think that, so they think that we think. It's like, okay, I'm not interested anymore in that. Like, last question I think was too much, but in general, pretty good.
In this season, that last question intrigued me because of the fact that Koko's name is so out there, right? Because I can picture, let me paint you a scenario. I can picture this happening with the cast of the Traitors USA. And that's the question. And they do answer Boston Rob for it. And Boston Rob's like, well, it's obvious they're clearly trying to pin it on me. That's why it's me, y'all. That makes a lot of sense. They're trying to make it look like it's me. And he over explains to the point where it's like, well, it's very obvious it's him. But I think where Koko is successful is because there's this fatigue of Koko's name being out there because of Kevin's response and outburst. Koko's just going to be like, ugh. And they're like, oh, poor Koko can't catch a break in this game, and do move on. Because I think Lisette was the one that said, that is so faithful coded. Ain't no way Koko's putting her name out there. Which, why would a traitor do that? That would be, yeah.
I'm just gonna say it's like the weirdest thing on the traitors where, like, if you get voted out, you go home whether you're a traitor or a faithful. But then when faithfuls are like, I'm not a traitor, please don't vote me out, they're like, why do you care so much? Why are you so defensive? Like if you were a faithful, you would just like take it. It's like, no, actually. So the meta is almost to be like, whatever, I don't care. Like, sure, yeah, you all think it's me. I'm not even gonna fight anymore. And it's just like so against instinct, but it kind of works.
Yeah, I mean, we see this happen in the games we like, in a Mafia or an Among Us, where someone who's bad is like, ugh, just vote me out, whatever, who cares? And then it doesn't, you choose not to vote them out at that point because you're like, well, nah, because if you're so willing to go, that doesn't give me what I want. If someone's like kicking and screaming, no, don't, I don't want to go, either you're bad, or if you might have something else going on. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm getting rid of you. But also, this is a game that is unlike those games. This is a game seeped in individual gain, masquerading as a team game. So, to your point, if I am a faithful, I do care. If I'm a traitor, I do care. Because I am one person, and I am a person vying for some chunk of change at the end of this game. And I can't gain that if I sacrifice myself for the greater good. That does me no good. So no, I will not just leave for your benefit.
Nah, it's not like, okay, it's great where a faithful leaves and they're like, I hope the faithfuls win it. And I'm like, I don't care who wins anymore because it's not me. So congratulations on being so selfless.
The minute I leave, I'm rooting for the other team, is how I
Probably.
feel. If I leave as a traitor, more likely than not, the traitors threw me to the wolves. I'm rooting for their downfall. If I go out to the faithful, if I go out as a faithful and the faithful banished me, yeah, good luck. I want the traitors to slit all y'all out here. I'm rooting for them 100%. That might be the petty in me. You know what? I'm full of it though, because like, let's say if you are part of the faithful team and I went out, I would be rooting for you to win it all.
Okay. I would be rooting for like
Actually,
all the footage to be lost and it just to fall apart completely personally. Just like burn it down. I'm out. I'm done.
season canceled. I was gonna say, I then hesitated. I was like, could I handle you having that over my head on like our next season's coverage? I was like, nah, I don't think I could have that. I would secretly be rooting for your downfall also.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Nah, that feels mean. Nah, I'm rooting for your success.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The season's canceled in my scenario, so
You don't care. Like, whatever. This season didn't exist. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So the reason we brought up the mission was to talk about the fact that Dom and Hollywood Jade end up being a pair here, and Hollywood Jade does find a shield. So Hollywood Jade safe from murder. Dom decides to stop playing idle and start cooking. What Dom cooks up is, hey, how about we tell some people that I have the shield? That way both of us are protected. But then he called a house meeting and told everyone. And a lot of people were reacting negatively to this of like, why would you do that? That makes no sense.
yeah. Dom said better than like a few people knowing a little bit information is just everyone knowing all of the information. I will be honest, when the question came up of like which guest is doing the bare minimum, someone that came to mind was kind of Dom, but at the same time played really into his benefit right now, because when he makes this move knowing that they're all going to think he's been doing the bare minimum, he's not likely to pull off a move like this. Him lying about having the shield effectively protected, like hard protected both of them, whereas before it was a 50-50 shot. Like it protected him 100% from actually getting picked and protected Hollywood 100% because Hollywood actually has the shield.
Yeah. I think the only thing that works negatively for Dom here is that people are very irritated that he would give information like that up to the traders. And little do they know that, okay, if the traders decide to go for Hollywood Jade, that's not going to work. They don't know that. But also, we just saw Jericho get in a situation where he confessed to a gambit, and they were like, what? Get out. So I could see them treating that negatively also. But luckily for Dom, we get a very weird shield heavy twist at the end of the episode that kind of negates all of this anyway to a certain degree. And I think most of it will be forgotten and forgiven moving forward.
I am very interested to see how this twist plays out. I feel like it becomes extremely confusing, and I need like a genius style flashback to figure out all of the hands that these shields traded in the last episode, especially once there is an additional shield being passed around. So I'm confused. I'm sure they're confused, but I think a lot of the information is going to be coming out.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to that segment and talk about it because I do think we need to piece some things together here to make them make sense. So then let's get to the roundtable real quick because truthfully, I think this was probably one of the more easier roundtables for us to talk about that we've had in recent times, just because of how lopsided it was. By the time the roundtable ends and the votes happen, only to my notes here, only 3 votes were not Jericho. Everyone else voted Jericho, and Jericho went out practically unanimously here.
It's tough. I feel like Jericho needed to probably start mounting a case earlier in the day. I think the like retaliatory case against Meredith was just never really going to be that strong, even though Meredith is someone that Jamal's really looking at also. I think okay, just like recruit Jamal into like, you know what? I believe the Kara thing too now. Let's start to go into everybody, and at least there's two people going around trying to push a name. Recruit like Meredith and Chala like against Lisette. Like you have to pick someone. Like you gotta go early in the day, especially when you know from early in that day that your name is on the line. I think that it was unfortunately for Jericho a little, too late. It just basically it was decided as soon as the last roundtable when he's defending Rhea.
Yeah, and there really wasn't much Jericho could say to get out of this. He does say that he took the shield because that was like that helped him individually, and he said, I'm sorry if that makes you a bad faithful. It was just self-preservation," which is one of those things where it's like it's kind of implied you do not need to say it out loud because again, it does say, "I'm picking me over the greater good," which despite everyone else doing in that scenario, we are all hypocrites and we're like, no, but you did it and I didn't get to do it.
Yep.
Get out. That's going to happen. So it was just unfortunate.
The accusation is that Jericho was a fellow traitor, being like, Rhea, like she is faithful. I'll defend her with my life. Like if she's a traitor, vote me out. When well, can you name a single time where a traitor has ever done that in global history, like defended their fellow traitor like that? I feel like that is so rare, and the obvious move is just like who's being silent and kind of just jumping on the vote but not pushing it in case it doesn't happen. That is the way more traitorous move.
Yeah, I think that people are again, the argument that they were traitors defending each other is ridiculous to me, or Jericho's defending Rhea is ridiculous to me when some of you definitely do assume there was a recruitment happening, and some of you are ignoring the fact that a traitor was talking about another traitor on the way out. That now suddenly we've gone away from traitor versus traitor to traitor defends traitor as a strategy and as a talking point. And wouldn't that have been the exact argument Rhea made to get y'all to vote out Omer? Like that, that there was this big boomerang and that Kevin was actually defending somebody and that person was Omer. Like we need to decide as a circle, as a round table. Are we looking for traitor versus traitor, or are we looking for traitor helps traitor? Because you've been wrong on this now.
Traitor helps traitor might end up being like the next level of this game because it's just so rare that a traitor is willing to put themselves on the line for another traitor that like it could be so powerful if two traitors really lock in and just like to the death we are going to the final five. But I just don't see a world in which anyone is willing to stake their game on the event that the other person is voted out. I will 100% be voted out the next week. I think it's just too unrealistic to expect, and that's where I'm surprised that everyone went from Jericho as the faithful of all faithfuls to obviously he was defending his fellow traitor last night.
Yeah, I just feel like the idea that someone's going to put their neck out for somebody like that to that extent, when to your point, if they leave, there are so many outs for you still to survive, as opposed to you handcuffing yourself to one other person. Like, if anything, as a trader, you want to handcuff yourself to a known faithful. In the event they leave, you're proven more innocent. So,
Yeah. It
yeah.
just like Meredith was acting like Rhea and Jericho were singing for good to each other at the last round table. Like they're bonded for life. This is my friend for a lifetime, my fellow traitor, my partner in crime, my blood brother. Like this is just an absolute like I can't follow the logic.
I can't follow that logic. And then I cannot follow Jamal's logic either, who still is banging the Kara drum and says, "You pounced on Rhea yesterday." And I feel like I'm looking for someone who is pouncing on the weak, essentially preying on the weak and going after them at an opportune time. And he thinks that the Meredith and Kara thing is a duo of traitors that are operating right now. What I did find interesting, though, to go back to the beginning of the episode, is we had a moment where Kara had a confessional talking about how relieved she was to see Meredith be there and says, "Meredith taught me how to be a faithful with an edge." And I think that was very intriguing to me. I think that Kara has been told, hey, being innocent is good, but you cannot be innocent without some suspicion to not stay in the game. You need a little bit on you.
Yeah.
And luckily, Jamal has clung on to Kara here as a suspect.
And like, who better to have clung on to you than Jamal, who no one's listening to right now? It's been week after week of Jamal being like, seriously, everybody, I know what's happening. Please listen to me. And everyone's like, yeah, Jamal, you can have the last sentence at the round table, but we're not going to do what you say. Kind of not a terrible spot.
Great landing here for Kara, I think, who
Yeah.
outside of Jamal, no one's looking at her. So
And the thing is that Jamal is so loud and wrong that like it should look bad, but when everyone else is voting for Jericho, who I think looks so much more obviously faithful than even Kara, who's like the second most obviously faithful person in the game, then I'm like, Jamal's kind of making sense compared to everybody.
yeah, it's interesting. And I know we talked last week in great detail about the people left and how we can see why they're all still here. They have this two people have a rivalry. These two are saying each other's name. I think in the midst of all this, the one person that's a bit of an outlier now remaining is Natalie, who I still do not have a good read of her spacing in this castle.
I think Natalie is a little bit like a Shaughnessy of like, I don't really have a reason to murder her yet, and she's probably never gonna get voted out. But at the same time, like, it'll happen later. Like, we'll murder Natalie if we have to murder Natalie. If we have to, push Natalie, you're so quiet again, we can attempt to. And maybe also like, I don't know what Natalie's relations are in the house, but we don't see her like as closely tied to so many people. So I feel like it's just a we'll deal with Natalie later situation.
Yeah. So the roundtable concludes, and honestly, at this point, I looked at the time, and we had a decent 20 minutes left, which I thought
So long.
was very strange. I thought maybe we were about to hit a tie vote at the roundtable. That was not the case. So then the second idea, more likely idea, happens, which we're getting another murder in plain sight here, another bit of a mini game murder, and this time is in the form of a cursed shield. So they are told that behind the skull painting there is another shield, and by midnight they have to pass that shield on to somebody. The holder of the shield at that point will be the one dying this evening. That is the only way they can get a murder off. And I thought, very tough sell to give someone a shield when there was a limited amount of shields at the challenge. How are you going to bring this up? And how are you going to hope that they don't bring it up to anybody else? And then I realized, okay, outside of Dom and Hollywood, no one else has confessed they have a shield, so they should be okay to do this. And then things got complicated. And then we see that the faithful got a letter, and that letter says, earlier I said the shields were not made of the same metal. You cannot keep the holders of the shields cannot keep them overnight. They have to pass them on to somebody else.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought the only way that this like might have happened before the additional twist was Venus going to Sarah Nicole like last minute being like, Dom gave me a shield because he like we talked about it and everyone thinks he has one, so he gave it to me. Like, but he didn't know I already had one, so I'm giving it to you, Sarah Nicole. You were my partner, and like you're out of the game. She can't like say anything. It's over. But now once there's this hot potato with shields game going on, I feel like it got endlessly complicated.
It got very complicated and very public at that point. First of all, Koko did not want to do a murder in plain sight, but then Koko is the one who grabs the shield from behind the painting and in a panic ditches the painting in a
So
corner.
funny.
That was so good. That was comedy at the highest level. But then this is where I started getting a little bit nervous for Venus, because we see Venus and Koko whisper a lot, and we see Venus start to put it on a little too thick, and specifically put on the I don't know what's going on. Now, granted, I will say from where we were sitting, I think she wasn't there when they read the letter out loud. Like the editing made it seem like she was still looking for the painting when that was happening. So I would understand if you came into the room and everyone's like talking about it, like, I really don't know what's going on. But I think the logic was practically sound when Coco, Chala, Sarah Nicole, Venus were supposed to just swap it around amongst each other because they both had shields.
I understand wanting to play, like, I'm not this strategic survivor player. Like, I'm not sure, like, but at the point where everyone's telling you something, you can only push back so much. Either in terms of no, I don't want to do this, or what? Huh? Why? Like
Mhm.
it just, even if you're genuinely not understanding, just like do it, because otherwise you're gonna have too much attention dragged on you. So I think that it started raising some red flags, unfortunately, for Venus. I don't know it's going to turn around immediately, but quite a few people come away from like that was weird.
Yeah, because I think that at this point, now that everything's a little bit more public and a little bit more purposeful, I don't think you can get away with a rogue. I'm gonna give it to this one person. Specifically, what happened was Jamal pitched himself to Venus of like, could I have the shield? Maybe like I would like it. And when these three come up to her to be like, we have this plan, Venus almost pushed back and said, "Well, I feel like Jamal was someone who asked me. I'd feel bad if I didn't give it to him." And I all I could think was, why? Like, do not bring Jamal's name up in all this because there are three people saying we should do this, even though Koko will probably understand no matter what your plan is. You do not want to seem like you are hesitant to do this plan with three people to please one person in Jamal, who, by the way, had the roguest vote of the night and will continue to be on an island pushing for Kara. I want to be in cahoots with everybody else as opposed to the one person who's alone right now.
And it's not as if Venus had to like pass the poison shield to Chala. Chala dies, and they're
No.
like, "Oh my God, Venus gave Chala a shield." Like, no, use the real shield and then go do something else with the regular one because you're doing this in secret. The point is that no one knows who has the shield here. So go do something. The minute that you mention Jamal, if anything comes like to pass with Jamal, it's like,
Mhm.
well, Jamal's dead, and Venus said that she wanted to give Jamal a shield last night. Like, why are you linking yourself to someone that you are potentially going to be murdering or involving in a murder? I think that it is a little short-sighted, especially then when asking like, okay, give Jamal the shield and then tell him to give it to someone. It's like, okay, well, when Jamal gives the shield and then they die despite the fact that he knows they were holding a shield, he's probably gonna be pretty curious as to why you handed him that.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. That is a little too. But the thing is also, so we got to remember, in order to keep it good, to your point, I also would love a genius style editing on this because holy crap.
Yep.
So Chala passes their shield to Koko. Koko also has the cursed shield. So Koko currently holding two shields, one fraudulent, one actual. Um, Venus still has her shield on her. I thought of a couple fun scenarios this could have gone. If I'm Venus, I tell um Koko, listen, give me the shield, the cursed one. She takes the cursed one, she goes to Dom and says, hey, I got a shield during that mission. You mentioned you have a shield. We can't keep it, but if we swap shields, we can both keep ours.
Yep.
And I don't think Dom's gonna be snitching. Like, I don't
Yep.
think, granted, he was very public. He's not gonna be like, all right, update on the shields. I still have one, but I got one from Venus now, so we're good. I don't think he's doing all that. I
Yeah.
think he's gonna keep it hush hush.
I know we all have to give away our shields, but don't worry, me and Venus are trading ours. So
Would like to
can't get
announce a
either of us.
trade. Yeah. That would be diabolical. That would have been a diabolical move, and I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm nervous how this is going to play out. I think that Koko is completely right in not wanting to be involved. I mean, we already put the correct answer of Koko for who is the most likely to be a traitor in the competition. Like, I can't have four things on me in one day. Like, it can't happen. I completely agree with Koko of the like can we just have no murder? Can I just hold on to this? Can I go home? Like, what? This is too complicated. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I think that that's where I've landed on also, which is I think I would never want to act on a murder in plain sight. I recognize that that could slow the game down. I also recognize that that could, make it so that I have to now survive one extra banishment, whatever. To me, I think that a murder in plain sight just has way too much potential to blow your game up, especially when it's a trinket based one, like a chalice or a shield. If it's like a hug and you are a hugger, you're probably okay. You know what I mean? You're fine. or like if it's say a certain, like if it's say a inconsequential phrase, not like a Survivor level, uh one of the ones from like the early New Era season, if it's not like a weird mouthful, that's also fine. But I
Yeah.
think when it's item based, it's so tough. And I think that for Koko and Venus, it's not a bad spot to have them assume another recruitment happened and which direction that could go. Because I think that the argument from Jamal could be, well, here goes Kara. Kara brought someone else in. Lisette could be like, wow, Meredith. Who would Meredith have brought in? There's enough people looking at other people that I think this ends up being okay for them if they think a recruitment has happened.
I can't personally remember a time where production has just allowed a murder in plain sight to not happen. Like, actually, we're gonna pass on your
Mhm.
task that you've given us. We think it's too difficult, so we're not gonna give you the TV moment that you're setting us up for. I can't, off of the top of my head, remember, but I could easily be forgetting, and so that's my concern. Is when everyone's like, "Why is it 4 a.m. and they still haven't taken us home yet?" It's like, oh, because they're continuing to just wait until I do this thing.
Yeah, I think pending the results of this one or the comments correcting us, this could be the first time that ever is to happen. But also, they already have the shield, and Venus has already vocalized the idea of wanting to use it. I could very well see the next episode opening, and they scramble and hand it to someone last second to for them to die.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're fully out of the woods here, but I do think that Koko very clearly did not want any part of this. And Koko being the one under the most like heat, I am not mad at that. This is the first time potentially since Kevin left that you seem to be in a good spot where your name didn't come up despite you literally putting your name down as the most likely to be a traitor. No one's looking at you. The person who would have looked at you not only apologized for looking at you, but then left tonight. So these are all W's. Why would I want to rock the boat immediately after that? I wouldn't want to. So I get Coco's POV. I also get Venus's, which is I want to keep murder going, and I kind of want Coco's name to stay in the conversation moving forward for my master plan. So I understand that also, but I am worried that in an effort to make this master plan play out, Venus could have become someone more present on the radar. And specifically, the reason I say that is because there are some people that could make fireworks happen here in Chala and Meredith, who we do see have a conversation real quick and talk about both Venus being suspicious, but also talking about how Lisette is the reason they are still here and potentially someone they should go with further. And I do love the first mention, Scally, of a meta game for the final Fire of Truth. The we get there and then we just go alphabetical.
Love
No
that.
notes. No notes.
I love there's a little bit of gameplay here. Even the theory where Meredith and Chala are talking about how Lisette is their like traitor angel kind of devil of like she keeps fighting with us and she keeps us in because it takes suspicion off of her and it gives her an easy out, but she is actually a traitor, but we're not going to vote her this time. So I love that the meta is just becoming more and more complicated because I think that makes it more difficult to read in the future. And so I'm very glad to see people continue to speculate, whether it be on future weeks and or just their overall view of what could be happening.
Same. I think this is a very good like way to look at it, which is, I mean, being in an argument's been only good so far. No, like it's not like we're in an argument and more people are voting us. It's only Lisette still voting us, really. Well, for Meredith, it's Lisette and the person who left. So really is just one person
Yep.
remaining. So something's going right. Let's keep that happening. That's okay with me. That's fine. I think also what's funny to me is that when Meredith saw that Lisette put coins on her for who could be a traitor, she was like, well, I thought that was over. I guess it's not. It's still a net
It's
positive to me.
it's so funny because like I said that I didn't care about that question that much in this challenge, but they really did. When Kara puts coins on Lisette, she's like, "Me, absolutely not." Just moves them away. Was hilarious. I thought it was so funny. Meredith
Yeah.
being like grief stricken with the idea that Lisette thinks she's a traitor. It's like, first of all, it's not who do you think is a traitor. That's not the question here. And so everyone just like getting twisted up about this, it did what it was meant to do. It doesn't mean that I think it should have done what it was meant to do.
Yeah, I don't think enough people factor in the idea that people are just going to like the traders are going to give you the answer that they think you would
Yep.
most want, right? So it doesn't mean anything or shouldn't mean anything if someone puts my name down here. But I think people also, when they react that way, it's because that's how they would have answered it. They would have still answered who they think is a traitor, not so much, okay, so let me think like a traitor. We've been saying, my name has come up quite a bit from Lisette, so they could do that to try and fuel that between us. Okay, I can see why Lisette went that way. Like there's logic that could be there, but I think in the heat of the moment, you're not thinking about none of that. All you're seeing is your name being brought up, and that is offensive.
Yeah, I understand that even though it shouldn't be the point of the question, any attention on you is bad attention, particularly with a negative question. And so if it's like, who is the most like traitor? Every time someone is put into a grave, put into a coffin, locked down in the cellar, put into a bird cage, whatever the case may be, it's like, well, are they metagaming us? Are they third leveling us? Of they are a traitor, but they think we wouldn't think they were a traitor if they answered themselves. And so is, just the most faithful of faithful person just like absolutely laughing in our faces right now. And so we have to vote them out. So I understand why you don't want your name brought up at all in that conversation, even if it's silly.
Yeah. Well, I'm intrigued to see where we go from here and what the results are moving forward. There was one thing that I saw in the preview that I wanted to speculate with you on, Scally, and that was Venus saying she wants to go to the end with those two. Do you think, based on the footage, it looked like the implication was those two would be Dom and Hollywood Jade? Do you think that's the case? And if not, who do you think the two could be?
I think it would make sense. I think that there are a lot of people who are, at least from what we're shown, bringing up Venus's name. So I think that Dom and Hollywood Jade seem like pretty reliable picks for Venus. I think that she's getting just like, a little bit of heat. It was interesting how Venus used to stress about Kevin whispering to her openly in public. And now Koko is stressing about Venus whispering to her openly in public. So the fact that a few more eyes are turned her way, I know she said she would be willing to get rid of Dom at this murder last week, but I think the fact that she's waking up to, or at least we're now finding out that she's not actually that open to it, probably a good idea.
I think also what helps is that given some of the reaction that Dom got about that Shield announcement, I think if you're Venus, you don't want to go to the end with someone who is hard cleared as a faithful. Now seeing him have a little heat, that's good. Also puts her in a position where she could potentially recruit Dom because she could control Dom, but also she could maybe push Dom out. I think there's a lot more outs that have opened up with Dom showing the ability to be a bit of a liability. I think that's not a bad place to be. I think the big question is if her world, this is her final three, I assume she believes Dom will vote with me and vote out Hollywood Jade. I think that's where we are landing. Or the hope is that Dom wouldn't vote me if Hollywood Jade chooses to keep the fire going for one more vote.
I would be very interested if we were to get to the point where this is the final three and Dom votes out his, let's say, very light showmance. I still feel like that is so the antithesis to who Dom is on every other reality show I've seen. He is a big feelings boy. He loves hard. And so for Dom to vote out his showmance of all people would be very interesting and compelling.
Yeah. So all eyes on that potential trio there. I truly at this point would be devastated if we do not have a roundtable that is a full-blown bout between Lisette and Meredith, because it's been teased so many times and now it's become a complete afterthought. I truly hope neither of them get murdered in the night before we get at least one roundtable where they're both fully pushing for each other so we can get some kind of fireworks going, like proper.
Do you think we will though? Because my problem is I feel like everyone has just brushed that so to the side that if someone else brings up Lizette or Meredith's name, I think there's a possibility that it gains traction. But I just think that if either one of them are the one to really start pushing this, people are going to be like, oh my God, we've heard this before. Like, come on. Like,
Right.
we have bigger fish to worry about. Like, Kara, she's clearly evil. Like, there's so many, people here that I think they're going to have their sights set on before Meredith and Lizette. So I'm almost eyeing like Meredith, Lizette, Chala, final three, like still arguing, and everyone else has just blown each other up in the process.
Yeah, I think as the numbers dwindle, there's just a limited amount of names you can put on that chalkboard. So, does that end up being a situation where you have to look in that direction? You recruit the right person, and you could end up looking at Meredith as a viable option to kick out if they feed one more traitor out there, and that traitor happens to be Kara. Jamal's going to be the first one to be like, you know what, Lisette, I'm with you now. Let's get Meredith out. And then if we're down to like 8 people, really need like 2 more people, and then you've got game on your hands. So I think depending on the breakdown, we could see that. I do feel like the more likely outcome is that we do not get a payoff on this. And by payoff, I mean the situation where it is a roundtable focal point. I do think that probably doesn't seem to be happening.
I agree. I think that I think very possible one of them gets murdered because it's like, all right, this is played out. No one's paying attention to this feud anymore. It's not really doing us a whole lot of good to have them here. Or someone else makes the move. Like Jamal, Kara gets murdered, and he's like, okay, Kara got murdered, but like I still think it's Meredith. And like that there's someone else that pushes this.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued. Now, the only prediction I'm going to leave us here with, Scally, is do you think a murder happens when the episode opens, or do you think they did not end up pulling the trigger?
I think they've murdered.
Then let me ask a second question. Who do you think they murdered?
This is where I was almost wondering, like, could this be Natalie's time? Of like, Natalie, keep it quiet because I know you will. Like, here's a shield. Like, don't say anything. I feel like it could just go in a completely arbitrary direction of just like, who do I happen to be sitting by at the end of the night? Uh, I don't know. I really think that it could go any which way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do not hate the idea that Jamal goes either, because the way I see it is these 4 agree, okay, let's do our weird shield maneuver swap around, and then Venus goes, all right, give me the cursed shield. I'm just gonna go give it to Jamal real quick, and then Jamal holds onto the shield, doesn't say anything, and then dies. So
I'll still be very nervous for Venus in that scenario where she had been talking about so much about how she and Jamal had been talking about a shield. Obviously, if she's given her real one within the 4, maybe that is perfect enough cover that it doesn't matter.
right.
But still scared.
I think that because if I remember correctly, they have the shields on them when they come to breakfast, right? So the minute someone's like, wait, what happened? Because I guess the question would be, do we think Kareen's going to reveal that one of the shields was cursed? Because if that happens, Venus is like, well, I have mine right here. So you cannot say it's me. I think that would be the perfect fail safe there. As long as she still has whichever one that, if whatever swap around logic they did there, that would work out. But I don't know. I'm very intrigued because I also feel like there was a little too heavy-handed on Koko not wanting it to happen, but then going to scoop it up out of the photo. That's what threw me off, because I thought, okay, Coco's gonna put her hands up and be like, I'm not doing this. Venus has to go solo. The fact that Koko was the one who retrieved it, to me, feels like you kind of just went for it anyway. There's no way you did all that just to not do it.
I could see it. I will say I would be a little sad to not get, like, either Jamal gets voted out because he keeps pushing Kara and everyone's like, all right, this is weird, let's just vote him out. Or he like gets his way and then has to deal with the fact that he was wrong.
I do not want Jamal out in the murder. I want Jamal out in a banishment if that happens. Yes. A little bit of taste of your own medicine almost.
I just think that like complete storylines are fun. And if that means you have, a little bit of a crash out, that's still a complete storyline for me.
Yep. I think that up until this episode, I would have said Dom going in the night is the best move. I could see a realm where him getting banished could be more fun.
Yeah.
But I still think he's one of the few people that if he was to leave on a murder, I'd be okay with it. I'd be like, okay, that kind of your story kind of has been, I'm doing nothing. I'm doing nothing. The minute you did something, you go home. Like that would be funny to me.
Yeah, I can't even imagine Dom arguing for his life at the round table. Like, and that is almost why I just think it will never happen. Where it's like, Dom, I think it's you. He's like, okay. And they're like, this isn't fun. We're not going to push this anymore.
Well, it's interesting because like I don't, I watch a lot of reality TV and I cover a lot of reality TV, so my retention for these things isn't great. They
Sure.
kind of stay in my mind, leave. To my recollection, Dom was a player, like a smart cookie in the mole.
For sure.
So yeah, this in this cast, he seems to be like not edited that way at all, and he seems to be a lot more aloof and breezy. Even he's talking about I'm not doing anything, I'm just chilling. So I don't know if his feet are being held to the fire. Does he wake up? I don't know. Assume
Yeah.
so.
I feel like Dom was actively playing the game, but also has always kind of been a feelings person. And I wonder how much Dom of today is like in the more feelings space of reality TV than in the mole type space. So I'm very curious. I haven't seen it in so long that I'm waiting
Mhm.
to see, can someone activate Dom at a round table? If
Yeah.
possible, then I want to see it.
I think one last point I want to bring up is that Meredith and Chala do have a relationship that's hidden, and I think that that is a thing that is a bit of an asset in a way that we haven't discussed before, which is I think if you are a duo, you are a lot more sensitive to sniffing out weird interactions and duo behavior, and I think that was part of why that Venus Koko conversation looked suspect to Chala, and so the further conversation after that, I think that you are able to suss out why you two are being facetious and
Yeah.
hidden. What's that about?
You two are sneaking around talking the way that we're sneaking around talking.
Exactly.
That's our
Yeah.
spot. That's the spot we use. We want to whisper to each other and not draw attention.
Mhm. Also, very real when Meredith mentioned that I don't call Chala Chala, so I nearly called Chala Babe.
Hilarious. Would have been
Yeah.
so funny.
That would have been a very tough explanation. That would have been the saving grace to Jericho, might I add. That would have been the lifeline he needed, which didn't
Yeah.
come.
Meredith's like trying to claim, like, I call you all babe all the time. Duh.
You
Don't you
are all
remember?
babes to me.
You never noticed that?
Stop it. Yeah. All right. Well, Scally, is there anything else you wanted to bring up about this episode?
No, I'm excited. I feel like there's so much potential left here where we have no idea who could potentially go, if someone is even going to go. So I'm very excited to see just what is going to happen in the next episode, especially now that I feel like the button's almost been reset on Koko. At the point where Koko goes home now, how much can we trace back to the Kevin stuff? It will remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of intrigue left here. I'm actually very much appreciative that because I feel like people know what our stance is on twist when it comes to Big Brother. I feel like this feels like the most twist ridden Trader season we've had so far, but I've not been mad at it. I've not been mad at it. I have to process my feelings on having a lot more murder in plain sight slash like twisty murders than before. But so far, I think it's been very intriguing. I think it allows a little more agency into the trader's hands where there are situations where it's like, well, you have to murder or you have to recruit or do nothing or just keep it the same because you don't want to risk doing a murder in plain sight. I like that that's a factor. I also like that for some of the clear-cut murders that they no longer can do. Like it feels like Traitors Canada is trying to find a balance between how heavy-handed the game is for the traders and trying to find that balance to help some of the faithful out some more with all this movement. Whilst it's still being an asset towards the traders. You know what I mean? Like if the traders so choose, they can still get a murder off, but it's going to be a little bit harder than a standard murder.
That's exactly it. For Big Brother, it takes these twists, take either what was like a really strategic show and make it more random, or take the
Mhm.
people that are already in power and give them even more power. Whereas with the traitors, there's already an element of luck, to say the
Yeah.
least, in some of the traitors. So when it's like, this is going to make it more random, it's like, okay, well, that's fine because I'm already expecting some of that. And it mostly is disadvantaging the traitors, aka the people who are in power in the game. So I'm happy about that. I want their game to be a little more difficult because I don't want to just watch the traitors win every single time.
And I 100% prefer this as opposed to some of the suggestions people have had that make the show more the mole than the traders, which is, oh, they have to sabotage, or oh, they get a clue to who the traders are. I don't want any of that. I'd rather this be in their hands, and you can burn yourself by doing the most with a murder in plain sight, or you can take the safe but long route and do nothing and hope that that helps
Yeah,
you out.
I like
So
it.
yeah. So I think we're in a good spot here so far. Again, no issues with the twist. We'll see how we feel come down the line if there are more twists or what that looks like. Just don't put the seer in there. Don't put the seer in there, and I am going to be happy and fine. All right. Well, Scally, what?
Oh, the seer is so interesting to me. I have a billion thoughts.
I mean,
We'll see if we ever get to discuss it.
I got time.
I just it's too much meta, too much metagaming that's not relevant at all. So if it comes up, then I will complain aplenty.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely have a seer segment if it does come up. So
Perfect.
yeah. All right. Well, Scally, always a delight getting to talk to you. I'm going to get to talk to you again real soon because you and I will be talking to both the banished and murdered this episode. So be on the lookout for our interviews with Shaughnessy and Jericho coming up. But beyond that, Scally, where can people find you? What other projects do you have?
People can find me over on the Free Agents podcast talking about the challenge, which is airing its finale this week, and we'll be airing the reunion very soon. Been a very, very good season, so go check out the Free Agents podcast. And otherwise on social media, Twitter at Brian_Scally, Blue Sky Brian Scally, twitch.tv/B Scally, and I don't know, go find me on Letterboxd.
All right. Well, Scally, first of all, was David right?
No.
Okay. Second of all, has the name ever been mentioned on a podcast you and I have been on?
It's possible, but it doesn't
Well,
stand out to me.
I mean, I say that as if I'm going to retain every name I've guessed. Every time I come to intro you,
Oh,
I
in
have this
terms of
moment of
guesses, no.
pause. Yeah, well, I come with this moment of pause, like, I don't remember if I've said this name or not, but I'm going to have to say a name. And so today I was able to spit out David, and I don't think I've said that before, so that worked out. But anyway, enough about that. Y'all can find me on all platforms, of course, at Pooyaism, twitch.tv/Pooya, though. That's where I am when I'm not podcasting. And currently, I am podcasting quite a bit. Some stuff you're going to see, obviously, immediately. Some stuff you're going to see in the future. 90 Day, I'm doing the catch up double up with Sasha Joseph this week. So be on the lookout for that closer to the weekend. I think you're going to get that release. Me and Liana will be talking over on the lounge. And big announcement for my Twitch. I am hitting my 5-year partner anniversary on Thursday. And in order to commemorate that, I am going to be on the front page of Twitch that day. So I have some fun things planned, a long stream planned. So if you are around, please come through. Twitch.tv/Pooya should be a good time there. And otherwise, we will talk to you all soon. You'll see us with these exit interviews. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.